Namaste. Welcome to the third edition of the Global Festival of Oneness, organized by the Advaita Academy, celebrating the life and works of Adi Shankara. We will start with a prayer. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru-Paramparam. We are very pleased to have with us Jataayu ji, who is going to talk on Advaita vision of harmony amidst Theo-diversity, Harihara Abheda, Panchayatana and Shanmata. Before we start the session, I'd like to introduce the speaker. Jataayu ji, whose real name is Shankara Narayanan, has been writing and speaking on cultural and social themes and Hindutva since 2005, both in Tamil and English. The range of his topics include Hindu philosophy, especially Advaita Vedanta, Hindu history, scriptures, literature, and arts. He is active on social media and regularly expresses his opinions on contemporary Hindu issues and controversies, often indulging in constructive debates. He is a scholar of Tamil literature, especially Kamba Ramayanam, and Bhakti poetry, and delivers traditional literary discourses on these subjects. A collection of his essays has been published as a book, Kalam Thorum Narasingham. He is among the founders and editors of the website tamilhindu.com and the monthly Tamil magazine Valam. An electronics technology professional by vocation, he is currently residing in Bengaluru. Welcome, Jataayu ji.
Namaste, Anuradhaji. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Om Tad Brahma. Om Tad Vayuhu. Om Tad Atma. Om Tat Satyam. Om Tat Sarvam. Om Tat Puror Namaha. Antascharati bhuteshu guhayam vishvamurtishu. Tvam yajñastvam vashatkarastvam indrastvam rudrastvam vishnustvam brahmastvam prajapatihi. Tvam tadapa apo jyotiraso amritam brahma bhurbhuvasuvaro. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnuhu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha. Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam. Namami Bhagavadpada Shankaram Loka Shankaram. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru-Paramparam. Jananim Saradam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namassabhayai. I thank Indica Moksha for giving me an opportunity to present on this important topic of Advaita vision of harmony. Let me share my screen. Yeah, thank you, Anuradha ji, for the introduction, and thank you, Nitin, for curating this wonderful Global Festival of Oneness, starting from Shankara Jayanti. It's indeed a great occasion to reflect on the teachings of Advaita philosophy. So this topic, Advaita vision of harmony amidst theodiversity, I actually got inspiration for this topic from the theme picture that was chosen for the festival this year. It's a beautiful picture painting of Sri Shankaracharya, flanked by the deities of the Shanmata, Ganesha, Kumara, Shiva, Vishnu, Devi, and Surya. So this beautiful painting was made by the late great painter S. Rajam, who was also a polymath. He was also a Carnatic music exponent, apart from being a great painter. So let me jump into my topic right away. Yeah. Theo-diversity. What is it? And why it is the hallmark of Indic civilization and Hindu Dharma? As we know, diversity is the very law of nature. I mean, everywhere the nature is colorful, multifarious, multifaceted. Every flower that we see is of a different color. Everything in nature, it never fails to amuse us because of its inherent diversity. So just like there is biodiversity in the physical world, we are all talking about how important it is for ecology, sustenance, and the well-being of not just humans, but all species in the world. That is in the physical world, biodiversity, which is just there in nature. Similarly, theodiversity in the spiritual world. That both these are vital for the well-being of the world and all the species. So this term called theodiversity, I actually got this from a wonderful essay by Professor Lokesh Chandra. I have given reference to the essay in my last slide in acknowledgement. It's a beautiful essay. So he, while talking about this theodiversity, he gives this comparison of desert versus river. We know these great Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And if we look at the landscape and the geography where they were born and they thrived, it is desert. As we know, desert is like just sand, extreme heat, extreme climate. And the very survival in a desert is a struggle. Whereas the Indic religions, the Hindu Dharma, Buddha, Jaina Dharma, Darshanas, religions, they were all born in India, which is an amazing a geography with great biodiversity. There are so many rivers, Gange, Yamune, Chaiva, Godavari, Saraswati. We extol the rivers, and it has dense forests. It has great mountains, peaks, hills, valleys. So the civilization that was born and was nurtured in such a geography obviously would have much more diversity and beauty and color compared to those religions which were born as some kind of desert cults originally. He points out. And it actually very much reflects in the way, in their worldview and everything. So the monocentrism versus polycentrism. So instead of the word polytheism, he uses the word polycentrism. It comes from that. So the Abrahamic religions, while they talk about one God, one is the numerical one. Literally, it is one. Whereas the Hindu Dharma talks about one essence in multiplicity of forms. Ekam rupam bahudhaya karoti. So says the Upanishad. So while the monocultures of Abrahamic religions talk about revelation, Messiah, prophet, and all that, the Hindu Dharma and all the Indic religions, they talk about sadhana. They talk about sadhana, which is realization. While the monocultures are filled with commandments, Hindu Dharma and Indic religions, what they are all about is transcendence. It is dogma versus enlightenment. So he gives this wonderful comparison of how the biodiversity and theodiversity are very much related to each other. So while the Abrahamic cults have defined frontiers and boundaries, the Indic religions, including Hindu Dharma, they widen our horizons. So this theodiversity in our civilization, in our Dharma, is right there from the Vedas. As we know, many mantras in the Vedas, they actually start, they mention gods in plural. They say Devaha, Sarve Devaha. That's how they start. It's not just like one god, one book kind of thing. That diversity is right there from the very dawn of Indic civilization, we can say. And if we really look at, it would have led to chaos. Wherever there is multiplicity and diversity, it kind of disturbs the order and results into chaos. So obviously our rishis thought about that problem, and their genius, their spiritual splendor was such that they had this great vision of ekam. It is not ekaha, it is not numerical one, but it is ekam, which is oneness in the many. So this oft-quoted mantra, Indram Mitram Varunam Agnim Ahuratho Divyaha Sasuparno Garutman Ekam Sadvipra Bahudha Vadantyagnim Yamam Matarishwanamahu. So in the popular discourse, it is said that this mantra kind of declares all religions are same, which is simply incorrect. That's a very sweeping and faulty inference from this mantra, as great scholars like Ram Swarup have pointed out in their books. So what this mantra really says, they call him Indra, Mitra, Varuna, Agni. He is heavenly, nobly winged Garuda. To what is one, sages give many a title. They call it Agni, Yama, Matarishwan. So in this very mantra, there are so many names of the Devatas. And what is being talked about is Sat, which is more like a quality rather than a persona. That is very important. And this idea gets developed in a very sophisticated and nuanced manner in so many Upanishads. Just to give an example, in Chandogya Upanishads, there is this beautiful phrase, Ekoham Bahusyam. So it says, Ekameva Advitiyam. That's how that chapter starts. So in the beginning, there was only one, the Sat. And then it thought, let me become many. And that's how the Srishti came about. It unfolded. So the one becoming many, this phenomenon is spoken in a great detail in the Upanishads. And this Brihadaranyaka Upanishad has this wonderful dialogue between Yajnavalkya and Shakalya. Atahainam vidagdha Shakalyaha prapacha kati deva Yajnavalkya iti. So how many devas are there? Shakalya asked this question, and Yajnavalkya starts with 3,303 devas. Then he gives an explanation. Oh, are there really that many devas? So then Yajnavalkya talks about Ashtavasus, the 8 Vasus, Dwadasha Adityas, the 12 Aditya deities, Ekadasha Rudras, and then he says that in these divinities, the previous divinities are contained as an essence. So he keeps reducing the number from 3,303 to 11, 12, like that. And finally, he says, it is one. Katama eko deva iti. Prana iti sa brahmatyaditya chakshate. He says, finally he says pranan, prana. So in that particular Upanishad Vidya, the prana is kind of spoken as Brahman. So so whatever is identified as prana there is actually Sutratman and Brahman. That's the way Acharya points out in his Bhashya. They call it Tyat, that. That's how that passage ends. And the same idea further gets developed in the Bhagavad Gita. Yo yo yam yam tanum bhaktaha shraddhayarchitum ichchati tasya tasya achalam shraddham tameva vidadhamyaham. Whichever form of a deity any devotee wants to worship, with faith. That very firm faith of his, I strengthen, says Bhagavan. So before getting into our core topic on how Advaita has this great vision of harmony amidst theodiversity, the concept of Ishvara in Advaita needs to be understood. This is again a very detailed topic, and I think Advaita Academy already has a few lectures on this topic, and I am sure there will be further talks on this. So I have just put some short bullets, for the audience who are already familiar with this concept in the Advaita Vedanta. And also for those who are not familiar, these will serve as pointers to what they need to study on this. So one thing, that Brahman. So as per Advaita, there is only one reality, which is non-dual, right? So then when you say Brahman, Brahma and Ishvara, are they different? No, they are the same reality. So Advaita explains it in two planes. So there is Nirupadhika, Nirguna, Parabrahman. So the aspect of Brahma that is free of any upadhis or adjuncts, free of any attributes or gunas. And it is Para, that is beyond, above. And then there is Sopadhika, Saguna, Apara Brahman. The Brahma, the aspect of Brahman with attributes, with adjuncts, upadhis, and which is called Apara Brahman or lower Brahman. And since both these are aspects of the same reality, the word Para is often used to denote that absolute reality. So we need to understand is that Brahman, not that Brahman has become Ishvara, but it is the same, it is the twin aspects, the transcendent and the relative aspects that are spoken of here. And just like Brahman is spoken as Satyam Jnanam Anantam, Ishvara is Satchit Ananda, existence, consciousness, and bliss. And Ishvara possesses Maya. He is called Mayadhisha or Mayin due to that. And when we come to this trifold idea of Ishvara, Jiva, Jagat, which is a very, very popular and very important theme in all Vedanta schools. So empirically different views of this are acceptable within the Advaita Vedanta framework till some point in a graded manner, as we all know. So as we all know, Advaita talks about Vyavaharika and Paramarthika, the twin realities. So if a person wants to worship Bhagavan as his master and him as the dasa, that's pretty much acceptable to the Advaita Vedanta in the Upasana phase. So, and so how to derive Ishvara? I mean, deriving Ishvara from the Brahman or deriving the Nirguna Brahman from the Ishvara. So these kind of theological debates that are actually quite popular in some of the dualistic Vedantic schools, they are immaterial for Advaita Vedanta because there is really no debate there. So one is the potential aspect, the other is the kinetic or functional aspect. And there is only one reality and not two. So Sri Ramakrishna beautifully explained this as it is like water and ice. Water is frozen ice and ice melted is water. You may use them according to your needs. So Advaita Vedanta in its philosophical treatises, not just in the bhashyas of Sri Shankaracharya and the commentaries and the sub-commentaries written on them. So this Ishvara Tattva is explained beautifully in such a manner that it is exhaustive, comprehensive, and it is also reconciliatory, admitting many empirical views of Ishvara within the Upasana space. That's the beauty of it. And why this is important? Because this philosophical framework directly gives way to what we are going to talk about, a vision that nurtures theodiversity in a great way. So this is a wonderful passage from Panchadashi. I'll just read out this. You can just see what a vast arena of worship that the Panchadashi talks about here. The forms of Virat, such as Ishvara, Hiranyagarbha, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Indra, Agni, Ganesha, Bhairava, Mairala, which is a folk deity in Karnataka, Marika, Yakshas, Asuras, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, cows, horses, and other beasts, birds, fig, banyan, mango trees, wheat, rice, and others, cereals and grasses, water, stone, earth, chisels, axes, and other implements. All these are manifestations of Ishvara. Worshipped as Ishvara, they grant fulfillment of desires. See, in this big list, it is not just like the Trimurti or the Vedic Devatas. He has even included folk worship and even worshipping deities in dhanyas, which we still do as part of the Navagraha Homa and other rituals. In whatever form Ishvara is worshipped, the worshipper obtains the appropriate reward through that form. If the method of worship and the conception of the attributes of the deity are of high order, the reward also is of high order. So this talks about the Sattvika, Rajasika, Tamasa aspects of the deities, which is also recognized in the Advaita scheme. Otherwise, it is not. In the secondless Advitiya principle, Brahman, the whole universe, in the form of Ishvara and Jiva and all Charachara, animate and inanimate objects, appears like a dream. Those who do not know the nature of Brahman, who is Advitiya and associationless, they fruitlessly quarrel over Jiva and Ishvara, which are creations of Maya. So this passage comes in this chapter called the Chitradeepa, when he elaborates his entire framework of Ishvara Jiva Jagat in a wonderful manner. And oneness, there is this great metaphor of streams flowing into the ocean. We all know the famous shloka, Akashat patitam toyam yatha gacchati sagaram, sarvadeva namaskaraha, keshavam prati gacchati. All the drops of water that fall from the sky as they eventually go to ocean, all prostrations to all deities, they reach Keshava. There is this other verse from Shiva Mahimna Stotra, Trayi Sankyam Yoga Pashupati Matam Vaishnavamiti Prabhinne Prasthane Paramidamadav Pathyamiti. So here, Pushpadanta takes the names of the philosophical schools and the religions. Trayi means the Rig, Yajus, Saman, the Veda and Vedanta that is derived from that. That is Trayi. Sankhya and Yoga, we know the two darshanas. Pashupati Matam is all the Shaiva religions, including the Pashupata, Kalamukha, Kapalika, the entire Shaiva religions. Vaishnavam and all Vaishnava religions. They all start perhaps from different starting points, Prabhinne, Prasthani, and then they start out, they flow. Why is it so? He asks the question and then answers, Ruchinam Vaichitriyat Druju Kutila Nana Patajusha. That's because, as they say, Loko Bhinna Ruchihi. The world is vast and every person is different. And the tastes of the people are different. And as many people, as many tastes, there are so many paths to conceive divinity. And they take straight path, Riju Kutila Nana Patajusha. They take varied paths, some straight, some crooked, some bent, some curved, all that. But ultimately, Nrinam Eko Gamyaha Twamasi Payasar Navamile. And you are the ocean into which all these rivers, they flow and merge. And Shankara uses the same metaphor, Sindhu Sarid Vallabham. So when he talks about the stages of bhakti, so he starts with Ankolam Nijabija Santati, like that shloka starts. So he basically conceives the growth of bhakti as to the way the iron attracts the magnet. That's how the Ishvara attracts the devotee. That's the relation, mutual attraction between each other. And then how a chaste woman longs for this Sadhvi Naija Vibhum. That is the next aspect. And like this, he gives many metaphors. And the last metaphor is Sindhu Sarid Vallabham. Like the way river merges into sea, then there is no difference and there is only oneness. So this whole metaphor flows from the Upanishad mantra, Yatha Nadya Sandamana Samudre Astam Gachanti Namarupe Vihaye Tatha Vidwan Namarupa Vimuktaha Parat Param Purusha Upaiti Divyam. That comes from the Mundaka Upanishad. So this river ocean metaphor is a beautiful symbolism for oneness. And how the theism or the theological framework of Advaita differs compared to the other schools of Vedanta. So if we see the historical evolution of Vedanta schools from Shankaracharya through Srikantha, Ramanuja, Madhava, Nimbarka to Vallabhacharya and even beyond. So we see that the thrust from Upanishads is there in the Advaita Vedanta, and slowly there is more thrust towards Puranas, Agamas, and other allied texts. From abstraction to concretization, more and more concrete ideas of Brahma Tattva, Ishvara, Jiva, Jagat there. From absolute impersonal Brahman to a personal God, it could be Shiva or Krishna or Narayana. From pure knowledge to knowledge aided by bhakti, Sharanagati, these concepts. From pure non-dualism to different flavors of dualism. And the last bullet, all this gives way to the last bullet. So when the Advaita Vedanta of Shankaracharya, we can call it theologically agnostic and diverse. So that gives way to theologically exclusive framework in the dualistic bhakti-oriented Vedanta schools. So in a sense, Advaita philosophical framework is the most suited to nurture theodiversity, we can say. See, every school, because every one of these darshanas are part of the greater Hindu Vedic tradition. So obviously, we cannot compare them to, let's say, Abrahamic religion or other monocultures. But philosophically, the bhakti schools and the dualistic schools have more theological exclusiveness compared to the Advaita Vedanta. That's what I want to point out here. Syat Parameshwarasyapi Ichhavashat Mayamayam Rupam Sadhakanugrahartham. Ishvara, out of compassion, takes on by his Maya a form to grace the spiritual aspirant. So this line from the Brahma Sutra Bhashya recognizes the personal God concept of all theism, but it is just that it allows multiple theologies to flourish. So now, so far I just explained the philosophical framework. Now we come to these concrete ideas of how this theodiversity and philosophical oneness is expressed in the form of the Harihara concept, which is very powerful. It's very ancient. This mantra from the Yajurveda, Ritagam Satyam Param Brahma Purusham Krishna Pingalam Urdhvaretam Virupaksham Vishwarupa Yavai Namo Namaha. This is chanted daily in the Sandhya Vandanas, the Sandhya Vandana that we do. So this mantra talks about the Parama Purusha in a twin aspect, Ritam and Satyam. It says Ritagam Satyam Param Brahman. The supreme truth the highest Brahman, assuming the form of Purusha, how he is dark brown and reddish blue. See, the two colors are spoken, Krishna Pingalam. And he is absolutely chaste, Urdhvareta, Virupaksha. Virupaksha means uncommon eyes, but it typically refers to the three eyes of Shiva. And Vishwarupaya Vai Namo Namah, the universal form. So while commenting on this mantra, Sayanacharya has actually mentions that this explains Ardhanarishwara form. So he interprets the Krishna Pingalam as the colors of Shiva and Parvati. And he says that this mentions Shiva. And traditionally, this is interpreted by the elders in the Smarta tradition as indicating the Harihara Swarupa. So when we come to Mahabharata, Shivaya Vishnu Rupaya, Vishnave Shiva Rupine, Dakshayagnya Vinashaya, Hari Rupaya Te Namah. So this is Arjuna's praise of Shiva when he receives Pashupatastra. Beautifully, this shloka contains the Harihara Abheda. And then in the Anushasana Parva, there is another shloka. Rudro Narayanashchaiva Sattvam Ekam Dvidhakritam Loke Charati Kaunteya Vyaktistham Sarvakarmasu. It is one Sattva which has split itself as Rudra and Narayana. And in the world, all the Leela of the world, it is performed by that Rupa. Skandopanishad has another beautiful verse. Yatha Shivamayo Vishnur evam Vishnumaya Shivaha yathantaram na pashyami tatha me swastirayushi yathantaram na bhedaha yathantaram na bhedasyuhu Shiva Keshavayos tatha. So this verse explicitly says that I don't see any difference between Shiva and Vishnu. Antaram na pashyami. Na bhedaha. There is no difference, in essence, between Shiva and Vishnu. So, because this Harihara concept is very ancient, it finds place in the iconography pretty early in Mamallapuram, which is of the Pallava dynasty era, about 6th, 7th century. We have the Ardhanarishwara and Harihara, beautiful icons, carved on two sides of one pillar in the famous Dharmaraja Ratha, among the 5 Rathas in Mahabalipuram. Around the same historical period, we have the Chalukya dynasty sculpture in Badami, which has a beautiful Harihara. It is in one of the cave. And as distant as Cambodia, there are Harihara icons, and this beautiful Harihara head, which is in one of the museums in some Western country. We can see the Jata Mukuta of Shiva and the Kirita of Vishnu and the third eye represented. And there are also full-length Harihara sculptures in the Southeast Asian countries also. And when we come to the later period, there is this beautiful Chandela dynasty Harihara, flanked by deities and rishis and Gandharvas, a great splendorous sculpture with Trishula in the right hand and the Chakra in the left hand, Shankha. We can keep looking at this sculpture for hours. So beautiful it is. That's 10th century. And in the Tanjavur Brihadishwara temple, there is a Chola, the Chola dynasty, Shankara Narayana Harihara sculpture. And the one in the middle, it is the deity in the Garbhagriha. So an artist has drawn the deity. It's called Shankara Narayana. And as we see, the Harihara and Ardhanarishwara are the twin aspects of the same thing. So the one reality is represented in the twin form as both Ardhanarishvara and Harihara. How? Because in many stotras, in the Shivananda Lahari, for example, when in one shloka, Acharya says that Bharyatvam Aryapate, Vishnu has become, there is a tradition in the Shaiva Puranas that Vishnu became the mount of Shiva, Nandi, when he wanted to, as the Vahana, and Vishnu became the Dhanu, actually not the Dhanu, the arrow, the Shara of Shiva during the battle with Tripuras. And Vishnu also become Shiva's Bharya and Ardhavapusha. So he took one half of Shiva. So that way, so because, the Devi is called as Narayani. So in the Purana metaphor, in the Purana symbolism, she is represented, she is called as the younger sister of Narayana. And that is why she is Narayani. And in the Meenakshi Kalyanam picture, the famed one, Sundareshwara, Shiva, is marrying Meenakshi, Parvati. And Narayana, as the brother of Meenakshi, he is, pouring water. And so we see the three deities, Vishnu, Shiva, and Shakti. And then they become two twin deities, Ardhanarishvara and Harihara. And finally, it is the one non-dual Brahman. Such a beautiful symbolism this is. So this famous shloka, Sarva Mangala Mangalye, Shive Sarvartha Sadhike, Sharanye Trembake Gauri, Narayani Namostate. So the first line has Shiva and the next line has Narayani. So beautiful. And the oneness, it's not just Harihara, the Trimurti aspect is also explained in Advaitic commentaries greatly. I will just, so there is this, Yaf Prithivyam Itisho Sa Vantaryami Jagadguruhu Harir Brahma Pinakiti Bahudhaikopi Giyate. So this shloka is quoted in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad Vartika of Sureshwara. I will give the gist of this. So what he says is that the Antaryami and Jagadguru, who stands in all the elements like Prithvi, while explaining that mantra, he says, he is called Hari Brahma Pinaki, means Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. He is sung Bahudhaika, Yekopi Bahudha Giyate. So he is one, but he is sung in many ways. So Anandagiri, while commenting on this verse, so the gist of that passage is that the Purana says that, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, they perform three functions, Srishti, Sthiti, Samhara. Does that mean there are three Ishvaras? No, says Anandagiri. Because the Shruti says Ishvara is one, and the Puranas cannot differ with Shruti. So thinking that there are three personalities or three deities performing three functionalities distinctly is a very preliminary view. So that's what he says. So in the Vishnu Sahasranama Bhashya of Shankara, there are many names which are given Vedantic interpretations. Keshava is one. So instead of the usual meaning, Shankara goes to the etymology and he says, Kascha Ascha Ishascha Trimurtayaha Keshaste Yad Vashena Vartante Sa Keshavaha. So he says, so the Ka, A, Isha. So these are the three names of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. So he says that the Parabrahman is beyond the Trimurti. That's how he interprets. See, this doesn't mean that the Parabrahman, there are these Trimurtis and there is a fourth Parabrahman. No. Those who know their Advaita well, they know that when you say gold chain, gold bracelet, gold necklace, and then gold is not something separate from that. It is the essence of all of them. So there are temples dedicated for Harihara in many parts. There is Shankara Narayana temple in Sankaran Kovil, Tamil Nadu. There is a village by name Shankara Narayana in Karnataka, and there is temple in Hariharapura. In Kerala, there are temples with twin linga icons. There are Trimurti temples in many places, the Mamallapuram, Elephanta cave shrines, Baroli in Rajasthan, the great Prambanan temple in Indonesia, Yogyakarta. There are actually 3 shrines. As you see, those 3 big shrines are Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, and opposite to them, there are 3 shrines for Hamsa, Garuda, and Nandi. And then there are other temples dedicated for the Trimurti. So Harihara Abheda is beautifully expressed in Shankaracharya's works. So for want of time, I will just read out 1 or 2 of them. In Prashnottara Ratnamalika, Kascha Bhagavan Mahesha Shankara Narayanat Maikaha. Who is the Godhead? It is Maheshwara, the combination of Shiva and Vishnu, says the Acharya. And in Gangashtakam, the final prayer is that Bhuyat Bhakti Ravichuta Harihara Advaitatmika Shashwati. May my bhakti to Hari and Hara be unwavering. Harihara Advaitatmika Shashwati. And we have more composite deities. There is Gayatri, who has the aspects of Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, the 5 faces and all the Ayudhas. And Dattatreya, who is considered as Trimurti Rupa, and Durga, as per the Devi Mahatmya Purana. So she was born combining the energies of all the Devas. So there is this Shiva, Rama, Hanuman, beautiful theo-diversity and harmony. In Rameshwaram, Rama worships the Shivalinga, and in Kashi, Shiva chants Ramanama to all the Jivas, the Taraka mantra of Ramanama, who are dying in their last moment. And Hanuman, who is considered as the great Bhakta of Sri Rama, is called Rudravirya Samudbhavaha. So in many Ramayana narrations, Hanuman is considered as an aspect of Rudra and Shiva. And in North India, we can see Shivalingas in many Hanuman temples. So Goswami Tulasidas has stressed these aspects of Shiva-Vishnu unity greatly in his Kavya. In fact, in one place, he says that Shiva drohi mama dasu kahava, so nar sapnehu mohina pava, Sri Rama says. The one who has enmity to Shiva, that human, he will never attain me, Sri Rama himself declares. And we all know Harihara Putra or Swami Ayyappan. So it is a very Advaitic tradition. If you see that front entrance of Shabarimala shrine, it has Tattvamasi, the great Advaitic Mahavakya, written prominently in both Malayalam and Devanagari. And as you see in these pictures, Swami Ayyappan is described with Vibhuti as well as the Gopi Chandana. Right? And I don't have time to go over the Ayyappan story. So he was born of both Hari and Hara when Vishnu assumed the Mohini form. So this whole Purana is a great tradition to nurture the Harihara Abheda in practical religion. And in the Advaita Guru-Parampara, we have both Dakshinamurti Shiva and Vyasa Narayana Vishnu. So there are shlokas like Sadashiva Samarambham, which we chanted in the beginning, Narayanam Padnabhuvam Vasishtham. So the Advaita Guru-Parampara is the only school in all the Vedantic schools that has both Sadashiva and Narayana in the Guru-Parampara, which is so beautiful. And this other famous shloka, Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam, that also emphasizes that. And the Smarta worship traditions. So Smarta literally means the follower of Smriti, but it specifically refers to the tradition of some Brahmin communities that follow the Vedic rituals. They are aligned to the Shankaracharya Mathas. So interestingly, there is this shloka, Anta Shakto Bahishaivaha Vyavahareshu Vaishnavaha. A Smarta should be like a Shakta, a Shakti worshipper internally, and a Shaiva externally, and a Vaishnava in contact. Such beautiful harmony. And the Smarta daily recitation prescription, it says Veda, Upanishad, Vishnu Sahasranama, Rudram, Chamakam, Purusha Suktam. We know this, very popular tradition. And from the Harihara and Trimurti, we come to Panchayatana, which literally means 5 abodes or shrines. So this is a very ancient form of worship. It derives straight from the Vedic Yajna scheme. So this photograph that you see in the slide, I took this photograph during my visit to Varanasi some 2 weeks back. It is a very early Gupta period Panchayatana shrine. The ASI itself has marked it as Panchayatana shrine. So Surya, Devi, Vishnu, Ganapati, Shiva. These are the deities. Adityam, Ambikam, Vishnum, Gananatham, Maheshwaram. So goes the shloka. So any deity, any one deity can be placed at the center. The other 4 deities then go to those 4 places. So if the Shiva is at the center, it is called Shiva Panchayatana. If Vishnu is at the center, it is called Vishnu Panchayatana. There are many temples which are built in Panchayatana style, like the Devagad, Khajuraho, Bhuvaneshwar, these temples. And there are many forms. The Panchayatana worship is very, very colorful. So sometimes the deities are worshipped as Shivalinga and Shalagrama and the sacred stones. Sometimes in their real Devata forms. Very, very, very colorful worship tradition, Panchayatana. And Shanmata, which literally means 6 theistic traditions. The Ganapatyam, Kaumaram, Shaivam, Vaishnavam, Shaktam, Sauram. Named after those deities, Ganapati, Kumara, Shiva, Vishnu, Shakti, and Surya. And Shankara is called Shanmata Sthapanacharya. That doesn't, this nomenclature is often misunderstood and misrepresented. This doesn't mean that Shankara founded all these 6 religions. No, they have been there from very ancient times. What are his contributions then, as per the traditional accounts? So Shankaracharya refined and reformed the worship of all these deities. There were many Thomasic and other aspects in the worship. He brought them to Sattvika mode, and he reconciled and harmonized all these theologies in the Advaitin framework. And thus, he diluted the streak of sectarianism in each of these religions. So this is traditional account. So there are many legends about many temples. So Shankara went to a Shakti temple, and the Devi was in her Ugra Kala. He made it into Shanta Kala and all that. So if someone asks, do we have historical evidence for all this? Perhaps we may not show historical evidence, but one thing is clear. The Shankaracharya, if not the historical personality called Shankaracharya, his tradition has played a big part. There may be some other guru, some in the Shankaracharya Guru-Parampara, who did, there may be many gurus and many Acharyas in different parts of India who did this kind of contributions, and it is all attributed to the original Shankaracharya. We can think of that way. And both Vishnu and other deities as Upasya in image worship, Shankaracharya definitely admits. Pratimadishva Vishnuadi Darshanam is a statement in Brahma Sutra Bhashya. And Puranas. So this is a very controversial topic. Puranas have very conflicting stories. So one Purana extols Shiva as supreme. The other Purana extols Vishnu as supreme. So these narratives, I think, are inspired by dualistic and theistic impulses. There are also other stories in the Puranas which are harmonizing. There are many stories. There is the famous Ghanta Karna story. He was a fanatic who thought Vishnu and Shiva are different, and they both appeared in the Harihara form in front of him to enlighten him. So these are inspired by Advaita impulses. So when we come to Agamas and Tantras, we see that the worship procedure portions like Charya and Kriya they have a lot of theological exclusive ideas. But when we come to the jnana and yoga portions, they tend to get more and more philosophical. And some of the tantras, particularly tantras and agamas, like those in the Kashmira Shaiva tradition, they tend to get more and more Advaitic also. So we see the exclusive temples for Shiva and Vishnu on the agamic lines. But if you see historically, many of the earlier temples have multiple deities enshrined and depicted together all through the temple. The Shiva temple will have many Vishnu sculptures. Vishnu temple will have Shiva sculpture. Only after some specific period in history, they tend to get more and more, exclusive. And is Ishta Devata Bhakti, is it in conflict with this Abheda Darshana? No. So there is this nice verse by Bhartruhari. I don't have time to go over it. I will just read it out fast. Maheshwareva Jagatam Adi Ishvare Janardaneva Jagad Antaratmani Na Vastu Bhedaha Pratipattirasti me Tathapi Bhaktihi Tarunendu Shekhare. He says, Maheshwara and Janardana, no difference of perception between them for me. But still, I am a Shiva devotee. He says, Na Vastu Bhedaha. I don't consider them different, but still Shiva is lovable to me. And many great sages and bhaktas had intense devotion to one Ishta Devata, like Tyagaraja. Sri Rama, his Ishta Devata, but he has sung Kirtanas on Shiva, Shakti, Ganesha, other deities also. Muthuswami Dikshitar has sung so many kritis. So Guru Guha was his signature. He was a Devi Upasaka, Srividya Upasaka, but he has sung Kirtanas and almost all the deities in the Hindu pantheon because he was from the Advaitic tradition. I will skip this slide in the want of time. Two great post-Shankara Advaitins, Appaya Dikshita and Madhusudana Saraswati. One was a great Shiva Bhakta, the other was a great Krishna Bhakta, but both of them stressed Harihara Abheda in their works. You can just read out these bullets. So Appaya Dikshita actually wrote a Harihara Abheda Stuti, and Madhusudana Saraswati wrote a commentary to Shiva Mahimna Stotra in both Harapaksha and Haripaksha. Amazing linguistic and interpretive talent. The same stotra, which is addressed to Shiva, see, he wrote commentary in both ways. And the Hindu Tirthayatra tradition reinforces this diversity and harmony. There are Sapta Moksha Puris, Ayodhya, Mathura, Maya, all deities. There is Char Dham, which has Vishnu and Shiva, 12 Jyotirlingas, 52 Shakti Pithas, Ashtavinayakas, Kanda Kshetras, Surya Kshetras. So majority of the Hindus visit the temples of all the deities in the Kshetras without any sense of exclusivity. This is because of the Advaita vision of harmony amidst theodiversity. And if you see popular Hindu devotional expression, there are pictures of multiple deities in many homes, bhajans and slokas in many Hindu festivals, multiple deities, very colorful. So that ends my talk. And these are some of the references that I used in this presentation. Thank you.
I think we can. Yeah, that's better. Thank you so much, Jataayu for that wonderful presentation. And really, we understood what theodiversity means. We have all heard of biodiversity and other diversities in this today's world, but really how far the Hindu tradition goes in this theodiversity. You have highlighted to us right from the Vedic times, and of course what the immense contributions that Shankara made, and people who were inspired by Shankara, like the examples that you gave of Appaya Dikshita and Madhusudana Saraswati, some diverse in their personal worship, but the vision is universal as the vision of the Vedas. That was a wonderful talk. And then let's see if there are any questions, and we'd like to Okay, then
It took a bit more time, I guess.
Yes, UK is that's true. That's true. These topics we can go as much in detail as we want.
Yes.
I just wanted to know that in this Shanmata Pasanas, why was not Harihara taken there? Why was only Ganesha, Muruga, and it
No
was
need, right? Because Harihara is not a separate deity.
Okay.
See, Shanmata means 6. So basically, each deity, you exclusively worship that deity as the Swarupa of Parabrahman.
Okay.
So in the Ganapatya, Brahman is Ganapati.
Okay.
In the Kaumara, Brahman means Kumara. That way. So Harihara is more like a composite deity, isn't it? So it is not like yet another deity. It is a form of Shiva and Vishnu combined.
And it was interesting to note that right from the Pallava, the Chalukyas, the Cholas, and the Cambodians have used that image of Harihara. Is quite amazing, actually. And thanks for those pictures are also wonderful. And this Panchayatana Puja has Shankara has largely composed stotras on this. What is his, in terms of his works? Are there any particular works where he talks about Panchayatana Puja? Anything that you could tell us about it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
See, the tradition of Panchayatana, as I mentioned, is ancient. It is mentioned in the Puranas. So it is certainly pre-Shankaracharya. Okay. But perhaps if you see today, the only tradition, right, in India, which does Panchayatana Puja is the Shankaracharya tradition. Because if you see the other Shaiva tradition, they don't do this puja. And the Vaishnava traditions, they don't do this.
So only those who are the followers of the
the
Smartha traditions, they only so I assume they will do only Shiva Panchayatana Puja, or they are neutral, they can do
any. As I said, any deity can be placed at the center. Adityam, Ambikam, Vishnum, Gananatham, Maheshwaram. The other 4 deities go to the 4 squares. Yes. See, but again, if you see that's what I showed in the last slides. The popular Hindu devotional worship is completely, you can call it Advaitic or Smartha. See, there are very, very few people who have very exclusivist theological ideas. Like they won't have the picture of Vishnu, if they are Shiva devotee, or the vice versa. There are very few small minority of people who have theologically. So though it is only the Smartha tradition which does a systematic Panchayatana Puja, so to speak, if you go to if you see the puja shrine, puja room of any normal devout Hindu, it will have the Panchayatana deities. Maybe the Kumara will be missing in some homes. Surya, maybe nobody will put the picture of Surya, but everybody worships Surya, Makara Sankranti. Right?
I was exposed to Panchayatana only in the Puja Vidhana book, Laghu Panchayatana Puja, but of course there was nobody to explain how to do it, but we are always exposed to it. And there was a very nice slide you showed of a very ancient archaeological remain of a Panchayatana temple, which means how deep, how far this tradition goes. That was again a wonderful talk, Jataayu. We really thank you for sharing this information with us. I mean, we always think Shankara, we equate him with some heavy philosophy, but his influence is in our day-to-day life and puja and our value system also, which you very well brought out in your particular presentation. Thank you so much. We're now coming to the end of this session. I'd like to just make a few announcements regarding tomorrow's program, and then we will end there. So let us see what are the programs we have in store. Okay, we have some really good news. Okay, first we will announce tomorrow morning, there is a talk by Dr. Ganesh Ishwar Bhatt on Vedante Upasananam Sthanam. That is the role of Upasana in Vedanta. So please do attend this talk, which is at 7 a.m. India time. And then we have some good news because of popular demand, and what we have done is this essay competition on Jagadguru Adi Shankaracharya has been extended to all age. Previously, there was an age limitation, 15 to 30, but now it's open to all because everyone wants to write on Adi Shankara. I mean, this is really great news. It's wonderful. So please do send in your contributions by 25th May on any of the one topic. Yes, Aditi, the morning talk is going to be in Sanskrit. So with this, we come to an end tonight, and we will see you all tomorrow morning. Namaste and good night.